I started telling them that we should go, then all of a sudden,
What happened?
I was suddenly interrupted by a loud, blood-curdling scream coming from Maria.
Out of all the horror stories that we react to on this channel, I think true stories hit the hardest. Because when you think about it, there are a lot of stories that claim to be true that have these unbelievable things that make them very easy to process, right? These things that couldn't possibly happen, or things that are very, very, very different for us, like, you know, ghost stories, for instance. A lot of people don't even believe in stuff like that. They just like to be shocked a little bit. And fiction stories are much easier to process because those can't happen, right? But true stories, things that are very real and practical, that present normal fears, like home invasions, for instance, they just have a way of doing more damage. You know, they have a way of making you scared. You know, last night I dream of things like this regularly. Like my nightmares are about things that can happen for real. I had a dream last night that my wife and I were lying in bed and she was kissing me and telling me that my breath was bad. So I got up out of bed and went to brush my teeth, but I looked down the hallway through the open bedroom door and saw someone in my house. And when I yelled at them, when I called out to them, they started shaking violently. And my wife woke me up saying that I was screaming in my sleep. It was a very, very vivid dream, but I'm kind of weird about like doors being opened in my house so I can see. I don't know. I have this crazy macho thing that I need to protect my family, right? And I own a handgun, and if there was any intruders, it's all based on past experience, actually, because when my home got invaded, when I was living in that apartment and that guy came in my home, I talked about this a few videos back, it really, really freaked me out. And it's the most real fear that I have is home invasion. Why anybody would want to come in my house regularly, I don't know. But it's still a very, very real fear with me. And I think that's why true stories hit so hard for me, is because they're believable, you know? We're going to react to some true stories today by Nightmare Files. Make sure to head on over to this channel and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, guys. And if you like reaction videos like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel as well. Let's get into the video, okay?
Christmas of 2016 was the most horrifying and worst day of my life.
God.
My cousin was hosting a huge house party.
All right.
Really a Christmas party to celebrate the holiday on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
All of his friends, some of my friends, and almost the whole family were there.
Okay.
It was the biggest and most insane party I've ever seen.
Dang.
We were all above 21, with
Right.
the exception of a few kids, so a lot of us were just drinking our asses off and
Yeah.
becoming more drunk. There were so many of us just yelling and constantly crashing into things, and others were already passed out on the couches.
Dang.
I went upstairs to play video games with some of my friends, and then I got more drunk while playing.
Wow.
So drunk, I had to stop on one of my friends' recommendation. I personally was so drunk, I didn't realize this random girl was sitting in the living room who I didn't know. I eventually did realize after I sobered up the next morning. I do remember her walking up to me and telling me things I don't remember at all.
All right.
But whatever she did tell me led to her grabbing my arm and pulling me outside the house toward a white van.
Okay.
I got in the passenger seat and she got in the driver's seat. I passed out in the van a few minutes after getting in. I woke up to find myself in the van, but on an unfamiliar road.
Uh-oh.
I asked her where are we going. She told me that we were going to her house because she wanted to spend the night with me. I looked through the back window and saw my cousin's BMW tailing behind us.
Uh-huh.
I quickly realized what was happening and asked the girl to pull over.
Right.
And I told her that I had to throw up. I jumped outside the van and ran to my cousin's car. I made sure to take a picture of the girl's van to get the license plate before getting in.
Holy cow.
We both sped away and my cousin explained everything. He said he wanted me to join him for a drinking session in his backyard with some of his friends.
Uh-huh.
So he went looking for me. When the sister told him that I walked out with some random girl, he ran outside and saw a white van taking off with me in the passenger seat, passed out. So he got in his BMW and started tailing the van. The fact that this happened to me and the assumed safety of my cousin's house party, and that it actually worked on me, a 23-year-old guy, is what scares me the most. We called the police and showed them the picture of the van's license plate I took. They tracked the van to some abandoned subway station.
Wow.
5 cops went there and my cousin and I followed. We waited outside the station entrance and the officers went inside. Only 10 minutes later, the officers came out with the girl and 3 other large men in cuffs. They placed them in the cars, and one officer searched the white van, and the other 4 searched the whole station. What they found still disturbs me to this day.
Kidnapping stuff?
In the van, they found a bloody axe, chains, and duct tape. In the station, they found 4 bodies and 7 kidnapped young adults.
Wow.
Those 2 men were the killers. I still wonder to this day, where would I be now if my cousin had not saved me?
See, that is so real that things like that happen. And realistically, when I think back to a lot of my youth and going to these parties, I don't ever remember getting drunk out of my mind like that and not remembering anything. But I've gotten really, really drunk before. And when you get to that point, even though you're inebriated, you can still reason, usually with what's safe and not. But your lack of judgment is obvious, and you could be manipulated if the scene was more real. I think much easier than if you'd be sober. If you got invited into a car by an attractive female when you were drunk, if you were lonely and single, I don't think it would be too hard to be seduced by another person that seemed attractive to you, right? Dang, man. Whew, that's scary. All right, story 2.
I remember this was a few days into summer break.
Okay.
I was going away to Florida to be with my grandpa the week following, so my friends and I decided to hang out until it was time for me to leave. It was about 5 of us, 3 girls, 2 boys.
All right.
For this story, I'll call them Miguel, Denise, Maria, and Eric.
All right.
Miguel and Denise were twins, and the oldest of us, being 15. Maria and Eric were both 14, while I was the youngest at the time, being 12. They babied me a lot since I was the only one still in middle school, while the others were freshmen in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was a Thursday afternoon around 3 or 4. We were sitting on Eric's couch, and we've been playing FIFA since school let out around 2:05.
That's a video game.
And Eric
soccer.
suggested that we go to the park. We all agreed, bringing our baseball mitts, bats, and ball. The park was only about 2 blocks away from Eric's backyard.
Yeah.
It had a nice sized playground surrounded by climbable trees.
Okay.
There was a softball field just a few yards from the playground. There's a small graveyard in a dense patch of woods.
All right.
Scary thing is that there are 3 small private cemeteries along the side of the park, separated by a metal gate.
That is kind of weird.
We tend to ignore it a lot since you can't really see it unless you try to.
Right.
We start our little game. We played about 2 innings, going into another one with Maria, being the most daring, says with an evil smirk on her face. Let's hop the fence to the graveyard. Miguel and Denise looked at her like she was out of her mind. Miguel asked, "Are you crazy?"
I was that kid. I was the Miguel when I was young. I didn't want to do anything scary. Like jumping the fence to go in a graveyard? Are you crazy? We having a perfectly good time playing soccer or baseball or whatever. Or we could go back and play some FIFA. Why you want to do something crazy like that, man? I was big on consequences when I was young. I didn't like to get in trouble. I didn't like to do anything dangerous. Not that I thought was dangerous. Like maybe jumping off of high things or whatever, but not going anywhere that I thought I could get hurt. Or especially scary like a graveyard. You crazy? Miguel was right.
What if an undertaker is walking around and we get caught?
I didn't even think about
Maria
that.
said,
It's
"We're
true.
not going to get caught. Just play it cool." We all were on the same boat for a few minutes. The sky was starting to get dark at this time.
All right.
We dropped our bats and gloves and walked over some big sticks to the tall gate.
Oh, at night too.
Eric was the first one over, being the tallest.
Uh-huh.
Then it was Maria, then Miguel, then Denise.
Then you.
As mentioned before, I was the youngest, and I was the smallest.
Right.
I was also terrified of heights. When all the others hopped over, I squeezed in through an opening of the bottom of the fence.
There you go.
We started to wander around, and not 5 minutes later, fireflies started to blink around us,
All right.
and the air got sticky and muggy. The street lights on the block started to come on,
Louisiana.
though no lights shined in the graveyard. But we still played around, catching the bugs and putting them on each other.
All right.
I, being the daring, idiotic kid I was, I would do front flips off the gravestones. I know it was wrong, but we were considered troublemakers in our neighborhood.
I mean, that is very disrespectful to do to graves and stuff. If not that people would be visiting at that time of night and stuff like that, and kids probably wouldn't think of it like adults do. But think about if you saw a kid doing a somersault off of one of your loved ones' burial sites. You know, yeah, that's not cool.
We laughed and joked around until Maria suddenly stopped. "Look," she says. Out in the far distance behind a big tree was something protruding from a small pile of leaves. It looked too weird to be a stick or an old log. I glanced at my friends, seeing the curiosity on their faces. Maria starts toward the mysterious object with determination in her steps. We stayed behind, letting the girl explore.
Maria's going.
As she got closer, I could feel my nerves suddenly getting bad.
Okay.
Like something was wrong about the whole situation. Everyone watched as she slows a bit, then stops abruptly right in front of the tree.
The person trying to lure
She
in.
stayed still for a few seconds, then proceeded with caution. I look over at my friends, who are also watching attentively. I started telling them that we should go, then all of a sudden,
What happened?
I was suddenly interrupted by a loud, blood-curdling scream coming from Maria. Eric immediately starts running full speed toward her, and we follow right behind him. My adrenaline was so high,
I guess so.
I could hear nothing but the faintness of our crunching footsteps and my loud heartbeat. My calves started burning as we approached the still screaming girl. Eric reaches her, looking at what she was looking at, and
What was
backed
it?
up. His eyes were wide in utter fear while we stared at the scene. The others and I stopped before getting too close, groaning and covering our noses.
Was it a dead
Once
body?
an unbelievable smell reaches our sense. Miguel asks what it was. Eric slowly looks at us, body trembling. No, it's not real, Maria said. Maria had turned her body away from whatever she was staring at, holding her stomach and retching loudly.
What was it?
I pushed past the other kids, keeping my eyes to the ground, and I made my way to the frightened pair.
It has to be
What I saw
a
still
body.
haunts me to this day. The smell was stronger, almost making me throw up.
Mhm.
But once my eyes processed what I was seeing, it's like I forgot how to function completely. It was the body of a white male, nude with his body mangled.
Mangled.
He was laying in an awkward position. I try my best to describe it, but his leg was bent at an unnatural angle and his arms were broken through the skin, folded behind his head. His face was covered in deep cuts infested with maggots, and his whole body was drenched.
Oh my
I
god.
stood frozen, watching as maggots crawled on him and flies buzzing around his corpse.
Oh.
Honestly, I don't remember if I was breathing or not. Before I knew it, I felt a strong tug on my arm. Eric told me that we had to go.
Yeah.
I saw that the others had already taken off, Miguel picking up Maria and running with her. Before I could even think to move, Eric does the same to me, throwing me over his shoulder and running as fast as he could.
Get the hell out of
We
here.
ran along the gate, finding the opening that I had crawled through earlier. Everyone was already on the other side. The next hour after that was a blur, but I do remember getting home, mute and shaken.
Yeah.
No one knows but us. I haven't spoken to any of them in years, and I'm sure this story has been suppressed in their minds like mine.
Wow. I've never seen a dead body before. You know, like I've seen some pretty wild stuff though. I've seen people that have been brutally attacked with knife wounds and stuff. And you know, when you see that, it's just like he described. Like you're frozen. Like you can't outside of being scared, you can't parse anything correctly. It's just like you're frozen with fear. It's the craziest feeling, man. And it's terrible to think about. You know, on the last reaction video, I was talking about somebody with wilderness survival or military training. And it's crazy to think that you can actually condition your mind and your body to tolerate things that normal civilians would not be able to handle, you know? Sort of like the way somebody that lives in a big city that's exposed to people that, you know, homeless people and stuff could help a country boy like me survive in that type of environment, because there's a lot of stuff that you don't know in cities and you could get taken advantage of quite easy if you're not familiar with living in cities, you know? It's crazy. All right, story 3. Those two were pretty good, man. I'm kind of tense
This
right
happened
now.
in 2019. My aunt, uncle, and my cousin were driving up to my town to have Thanksgiving with me and my family.
Okay.
They arrived 3
Happy
days early,
Thanksgiving, by the
so
way,
we could just hang out and see each other, since
if
it's
you
been a while.
celebrate it.
On the first day, I was hanging out with my cousin, who I'll call Anthony, who was 14 and 4 years younger than I, when I got a text from my friend, who I will call Logan, who suggested that we go hang out the night before Thanksgiving at around 2 a.m.
Okay.
Since Anthony and his parents had been staying with us, I invited Anthony to come along, and we
Alright.
snuck out of the house at about 1:30. For a little background, when Logan would invite me to hang out with him at 2 a.m.,
Mm-hmm.
it would typically mean we would explore an abandoned hospital.
Oh, dang.
We had been in the hospital 3 times and would often go up to the roof and smoke. Anthony and I walked over to Logan's house, which was about 2 miles away, and we got in his car and drove over to the hospital.
Wow.
We would usually sneak in through an open window, but after we saw it was blocked by a large, heavy box, we all had to climb up nearby a tree.
That's real sneaking. You know, when I was young, I snuck out the house quite a few times. I'm not proud to admit it. Nothing ever bad happened, thankfully. We did some silly stuff, though. We explored some places before. An old abandoned house by where I used to live was one of those places. We never got in cars and went anywhere, though. We never got real far away from home. Anything in walking distance, we were kind of too scared to do, which was probably good and much more safe, because thinking back on it, if something would have happened to us anywhere, my parents would have had no idea where we were, you know? I mean, I'm sure the cops that would have found us, or if we would have gotten caught by someone, would have reported us to the police. If anything dangerous would have happened, or we would have ended up missing, my parents still wouldn't know where I was to this day. It's crazy to think about, man.
And leaped through one of the windows, which Logan kept open from time to time. I thought it was strange that the window we usually went in was blocked off, but Logan assured me that it was probably some city officials trying to prevent kids like us from getting inside.
Squatters.
We used
maybe.
our phone flashlights to navigate Anthony to me and Logan's designated hangout spot, the roof, where we had brought a few folding chairs.
Okay.
We sat down and smoked when Logan told me and Anthony that he was going to invite his girlfriend Lucy over,
Well, they
and that he
prepared,
was
huh?
going to go downstairs by the front of the hospital and wait.
Okay.
Logan went downstairs, and about 5 minutes later, Anthony realized he forgot his phone,
All right.
probably because he was high.
Yeah.
I looked down from the roof towards the front entrance and didn't see Logan. I suggested that we both go downstairs to give him back his phone,
All right.
but Anthony wanted to keep smoking, so I went down alone.
Wow.
As soon as I got into the stairwell, I heard heavy footsteps rush up the stairwell. I assumed it was Logan, but when I heard grunts from a runner, I realized that it could not have been Logan.
Right.
This man's voice sounded a lot deeper than Logan.
Uh-oh.
And why would Logan be running? I immediately ran out of the stairwell and shut the door and pressed against it. There were 3 loud bangs on the door as I heard the stranger yell, "Open the door."
Wow.
He continued to bang and scream. Anthony snapped out of his dazed state and pulled out a switchblade that he carried on him. The door was then open, knocking me on the ground, and that's when I saw the man. He was fat, had horrible breath, and was wearing a stained white t-shirt and tore jeans with deranged red eyes,
A homeless
like Tyrone
squatter.
Bigum's. He got on top of me and started strangling me, telling me
Wow.
it's time to die.
What? God dang! Not only was he a squatter, he was a murderous squatter. You know, people that live in these situations, if you're homeless, you're desperate, right? If you know, it's hard to tell what motivates people to do things like that. You know, if you wanted to hurt somebody, chilling out at an abandoned hospital probably doesn't warrant a whole lot of pass-through traffic, you know what I mean? If you're trying to get a victim. But what if this guy was actually scoping it out and seeing these kids do this often? Knowing that there was a window that they closed, that means that there was people in there before. But how long would you have to wait for a victim? It seems kind of crazy. It's probably something much more random than something calculated. But just the fact that the person that happens to be there wants to kill somebody either proves they're completely off their rocker, which most murderers are, or he's on drugs. That's the only thing I could think of.
About 5 seconds to him choking me, Anthony stabbed the man in the back with his blade.
Dang.
He screamed in agony and let go of me. Anthony grabbed my hand and we ran down the stairs. As we got into the hallway, we heard a psst come from behind us. We shined our flashlights to see Logan in the bathroom.
Oh gosh.
Looking extremely pale and had a cut on his arm. We all got into the bathroom and shut off our lights, hiding in a one shared stall. Logan explained to us in a whisper that when he was walking down the hallway, the man emerged from the bathroom and grabbed him, chasing him around the hospital lobby in small circles like a cartoon, until Logan lost him and hid in the bathroom he was in. Directly after Logan finished his story, we heard the man run down the stairs into the hallway, screaming like he was insane. His words were incoherent, but I remember him yelling the words murder and die. We hid in the bathroom for a little while as the man ran around the room, but he had stopped screaming. We just sat in silence as we heard his footsteps go from hallway to hallway. I whispered to Logan and Anthony that we should call the cops, but they demanded I didn't because we did break into the hospital, which was against the law.
I mean, you are being hunted by a man that you stabbed that did not stop, running around yelling murder in a hospital and actively hunting you. And you are afraid to get a charge for breaking and entering an abandoned hospital? That's not real smart, kid. Call the cops, take your lick, and survive. Gosh.
Finally, after 1 hour of waiting, at exactly 3:43 a.m., we all heard the bathroom door open as light poured into the room. I shut my phone and I looked over beside Anthony and Logan, who had tears in their eyes. We saw the man's bare feet walk over to one of the sinks, stand there for a couple of moments, and then collapse. We got out of the stall and saw the man was not moving. None of us dared to check and see if this guy was okay.
The stab wound?
We hauled ass back through the window and ran back to Logan's car.
Or maybe
we saw his girlfriend Lucy waiting. Logan explained everything to her, and to his frustration, she said that she was going to call the police, not wanting to get in trouble.
Right.
Logan left Lucy and drove me and Anthony back home. We had Thanksgiving the next morning, though me and Anthony were still shaking over the entire thing. Logan didn't answer my text until the night of Black Friday.
The night before
where he
Thanksgiving.
explained that he hasn't heard from Lucy and doesn't know if she called the cops or not.
Wow.
After 1 week, Logan finally told the cops the story. Logan took the blame and admitted to the police that he explored the abandoned building alone.
Right.
But he didn't tell the police about me and Anthony's involvement.
Okay.
The cops checked out the hospital and found nothing but a destroyed pink iPhone, Lucy's phone. Logan led the police into the bathroom, where a bloody handprint was found on the sink, which he assumed belonged to the man. I don't talk much with Logan anymore. He stopped going to school because of the situation, and according to some of our shared friends, they say Logan once attempted suicide.
Wow.
It's been 1 year since the incident, and with Anthony now coming back to town, we've been texting a lot about the whole situation. Anthony thinks the man is crazy, a crazy homeless man who lives in a hospital. I try not to think about the whole story because it cost me a long-lasting friendship with Logan, who I hope is doing better.
You know, when situations happen like this between friends, it's really, really hard. You know, you can feel like you're betrayed by people for making decisions or ratting them out and stuff like that. These conversations that you can have around stuff like that is really, really hard. And sometimes, regardless of the outcome, people think that they were betrayed, and it's really hard to get over that. And, you know, there's a lot of instances in my life where I've had to make decisions to tell people things that were really, really hard to say and potentially risk friendship. And I have risked friendship before, and I've lost friends because of saying stuff. But if someone that you know is doing something dangerous and you rat them out and it saves their life and they never talk to you again, I think it was still worth it, you know? Guess it really all depends on what it is. It's crazy to think that friendships break up like that, but man, exploring abandoned hospitals though, something on the much lighter subject. Out of all the thrills, the cemetery was one thing in the story before it, but an abandoned hospital, we reacted to some abandoned buildings videos before, man. This is just crazy to think about going in these places like that, man. It's great stories though. Guys, Nightmare Files. Make sure to check him out. Awesome narrations, awesome story, and a couple other videos that I reacted to from him here. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off, and we'll see you next time.